This National Women's Month, we take inspiration from Benedictine sister Mary John Mananzan, renowned as a sister activist who continues to be at the forefront of the feminist movement in the Philippines. Since the 70s, at the height of Ferdinand Marcos's martial law regime, she has been at the forefront of political activism and still packs a punch at 80 years old.
Tutulan natin ang second martial law, tutulan natin authoritarianism.
Sister Mary John was dean of St. Scholastica's College for 18 years, its president for 6 years, and is now vice president for external affairs. She founded the first Institute of Women's Studies in the country at the college and co-founded GABRIELA, the Federation of Women's Organizations, and was a national chairperson for 18 years. In March 2011, she was named one of the 100 most inspiring persons in the world by Women Deliver, an international women's advocacy group. We get to know this Wonder Woman with a quick round of questions. Email or handwritten letter?
Email.
Do you watch news or TV shows or movies?
News.
What's your favorite city or country in the world?
Sevilla.
And you also watch a lot of Broadway when you're in New York. What's your favorite Broadway play?
Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, sister, what makes you angry?
Stupid questions.
Oh, I hope these are not stupid. What is your guilty pleasure?
Violet crumble.
And you still eat that even though you're diabetic now, sister. What's your
Yeah.
philosophy in life?
Choose your own poison and die happy.
Who is your modern feminist heroine or icon?
Yvonne Jubara. She is an eco-feminist from Brazil.
Her fascinating life as a nun, educator, leader, and activist served as one of the inspirations behind the 1984 award-winning film Sister Stella L. So in the movie, Vilma Santos plays the nun who is fighting oppression during martial law.
But
much of that
what
would
is
you
important there is the change in her, because in the beginning she was just a traditional nun who thought that the only thing to do is to pray and to be doing what she's supposed to do inside the convent. And there is a whole change in her when she was exposed to the realities, and then she was invited to mga protests and all that. Until she really became an activist, no?
Yes.
And I think that is the one that is common to Sisters Christine, Sister Mariani, and me, no? So the other things, ano na yun, palabog na yun.
Well, I think a watershed moment for you as a feminist was when you came back from your studies abroad. You started participating in these. The first was your baptism of fire. No?
Yes, which is in the La Tondena,
right?
yeah. Because that is the first time I really saw police brutality when they forced the workers to come out, and they really beat them up, no? In fact, two sisters went inside and had pangalan nito yung kapit-bisig. And can you imagine how the sisters felt when yung katabi niya pinukpok, yung katabi niya dito pinukpok, siya hindi. At that time, I was outside and nakita ko talaga duguan sila lahat, no? Na they weren't even sitting down. I said, oh my God, what is this? Talagang that was the first time I experienced that.
And you were actually ready to accept martial law, thinking maybe we needed discipline.
Yes, 74 I came, no? I came back. In fact, I wasn't here for the declaration of martial law nga. But on the plane, I was thinking, oh, why don't we give that a chance? Because discipline na siguro kailangan natin, I was thinking. But that changed very quickly, no? Because when I saw the oppression, the repression, kung ano-ano, na, my goodness, you can't even gather together, ganyan. No? At sabi, ay nako, hindi na pwede to.
And at this time, some of the nuns went through a spiritual crisis because people were questioning what the nuns were doing.
Yeah, because we ourselves, we were so used to, the usual thing that we do in the convent, and parang our whole world is, and here we are in the streets, and then binobomba kami ng may paint na water, na ganyan, sabi na, anong ginagawa natin? No? So what we did was to have a retreat by ourselves, 30 of us. I remember in Cebu, wala kaming retreat master. We just asked each one, how did you get into this? What was very interesting, it took us 3 days, for the 30 people to make kwento. And at the end, one common thing that we experienced was a liberation, a psychological, spiritual liberation. And because of that, your mind got opened. Now, there are so many things that are absolute, which are not absolute. They're relative. And all the things that sinabi sa'yo, naku, mga komunista, mga demonyo yan, mga ganyan. And then you happen to work with them when you began to work with the poor. And you realize they're such wonderful human beings. They really were sincerely wanting to change the Philippines. The moment pala you get open to such a thing, basta nabuksan ang horizons mo, you become less dogmatic, you become less arrogant. You learn what Jesus really meant, which is humility.
Something we all need to really
And
learn.
imagine, it's when I began to respect all religions that I felt I understood Christ. You would think that you will have only spiritual experience in the church. You know, I experienced spiritual enlightenment in political activities because people think that you can only have a spiritual experience or conversion in a holy place while you are praying. No, it's not. When you are living life to the full, that is when you really get spiritual enlightenment.
St. Scholastica's College in Manila is one of the country's most prestigious and progressive colleges for women, thanks in large part to the leadership of feminist activist Sister John Mananzan. She tells us about the chapel, which she says is the most important building in this 3-hectare complex.
Before the war pa to. But during the war, the Americans, because we are a German congregation,
Very German,
enemy kami. So binomba to ng mga Amerikano. So both St. Cecilia, the auditorium, and this one, they were all ruins.
Yeah.
So we had to rebuild it after the Second World War.
Okay.
But it's exactly the same architecture as before, no?
Beautiful.
We tried.
At St. Scholastica's College, Sister Mary John takes pride in guiding students to more critical thinking, especially through women's studies. The institute gets special mention on the National Historical Institute plaque at the school's main entrance.
Itinatag ang Institute for Women's Studies, IWS 1985. Kabilang sa mga nagtapos dito sina Corazon Aquino, first president, Cecilia Muñoz Palma, one of the first women in the Supreme Court, and Lucrecia Casilag, the former president of CCP.
Something you really started here is bringing in women's studies into the curriculum.
Well, before that, the social orientation.
Yeah.
Because I was dean at that time, and we had to implement what the chapter said, that we have to socially orient all our institutions. And the schools adopted the Trust, Education for Justice and Social Transformation. So, as a part of that, then the women's studies came in.
As Dean of the College of Arts and Director of the Women's Studies Institute, Sister Mary John was influential in spreading feminist ideas to students, introducing new courses that examine the patriarchal elements of Filipino society.
Because we believe that it's not enough to produce students who will have a career, who will make a living, but they are citizens of their country. And for us, these citizens must be agents of change. That means to say, whatever they see that is not correct in their society, they have to be an agent to transform this, to change it in any way they can. Sa amin, what is important is critical thinking.
Yes.
Hindi yung everything, okay ka na lang na okay, which is happening now, by the way.
So many issues, and you are very active in speaking out against it. For example, most recently, last February, you started a coalition, the No to Chacha.
Yes.
Which is launched on Valentine's Day.
They cannot ram it down our throats. At saka, the people must understand, ano bang federalism ang gagawin natin? Naintindihan ba natin? Naalaman ba natin anong consequences niyan? Dapat muna bus education muna.
Yes.
Hindi yung minamadali.
So you've spoken up against the Duterte administration. So what are the biggest concerns for you?
My greatest concern is that our moral fiber as a people is being eroded, which is showing itself in the lack of respect for people, idiot, ganyan. The lack of respect for life, which all these killings. The lack of respect for truth, fake news. The lack of respect for any behavioral code, din kabastusan, and a lack of respect for law. They are just playing about the Constitution. Now, that is for me an erosion of a moral fiber as a people. And even when all these people in the government are gone, how do you put back your moral fiber?
She's very frank and she's very open. These are valuable assets in her dealing with people. She's very passionate and committed. She is, first of all, an educator. But, she doesn't do education the usual, regular way. She explores other ways by which education can be done, by discussions. Of course, there are the rallies, and then meeting with other people. So it's a very diversified way of teaching and of learning.
Sister Mary John explains feminism and the women's movement in the country.
One distinctive thing about the feminists in the Philippines is they were first social political activists before they became feminists, and that is good. Why? Because it has a context. When you are, what happened was, I came from Venice at that time, and that's where I listened to all the women talking about mga incest, ganyan. Ay, wala sa aking view noon yan eh. Puro mga political detainees, mga ganyan. Nakita ko, oo nga naman, mas masahol pa ba yung pagre-rape noong sundalo sa isang political detainee kesa yung tatay na nire-rape yung anak niya? Why, that's so much worse. But who is making any fuss about it? Who is doing rallies against it? So I said to myself, when I come home, I have to take this women oppression seriously. And good naman, when I came, na-meet ko si Remy Riquen, si Ging Dele, si Irene Santiago, and the four of us founded the Filipina. Yeah, and that was the first feminist organization. Later on na lang ang GABRIELA came. So, and then, we wanted to define our feminism because meron kaming mga siyempre na kukuhang anti-men yan, yung mga bra burning yan, mga ganon. So, our definition is, you are a feminist if your answer to question number 2 would be yes. And that is number 1. Are you aware that there is a woman question? Meaning that there is a discrimination, oppression, subordination of women as women, and it cuts across class, race, creed, nationality. In other words, it is an ideological, it is a structural, and it's a global problem. Okay, naintindihan mo ba yon? Okay, do you see that it's happening? Yes. Number 2, kung alam mo na may ganyan, do you want to be a part of change? That in your area of responsibility, you are going to bring about a change that take away this oppression and exploitation. And if your answer to that is yes, I would like to commit myself to that, then you're a feminist.
And men can be feminists.
And men can be feminists. LGBT can be feminists. So that is our definition. And up to now, that's our definition.
Yes.
Okay?
And Sister, many of the issues you worked on then still persist today.
Oh,
do you
yeah.
feel that there's been big improvement? How do you...
Yeah, there is. I mean to say, of course, first of all, the fact that we know more about that is also already a part of it. Because before, nobody talked about incest, for example. No? Nobody ever accused people in court. Nobody went to jail. No? But now there are cases, di ba? The laws that we have the best laws on women, by the way. We even have a Magna Carta for women. Now, that is progress. Yeah. And do you know what is the latest? The CHED put up a memorandum, or memorandum number 1, 2015, really mandating that all tertiary education will mainstream gender in the academy.
Well, speaking of women, another issue you've also been outspoken on is the reproductive health bill. And often the church is very much against this, but you actually are for the RH bill.
Because I'm a woman, who would be against the health of women? And there is just one thing about the contraception like that. Sabi ko, okay, kung ayaw nila, di sabihin lang nila, wag yung kunin. Don't take advantage of it if it's against your faith, di ba?
Yeah.
But to deprive everybody else who do not naman have any problem with it,
right.
Well, I don't think it's fair.
And to understand, we need to understand what it will do.
It's really
not
for
about
the health.
abortion. It's not
really
about...
That is for me a wrong logic.
Yeah.
How can something that is so going to prevent unwanted pregnancies be for abortion when that's precisely what it doesn't want?
It's so refreshing to hear this from you, Sister, because there are many ideas that you bring forth that may conflict with some of the traditional church teaching. You have even been criticized for being too combative, radical. What do you say to that?
Well, what is the meaning of radical? Radical means from the root. Kung sinasabing radical ako, wow, I am complimented. Why? Because that means that when I analyze problems, I analyze them from the root of the problem. And when I suggest solutions, I also address the roots of the problem. Isn't that something kesa superficial?
Yes,
diba?
I totally agree.
Diba?
Yeah.
Then you should be proud if they call you radical, if that's what is meant. I'm not combative, I am assertive. But that's different from aggressive, no? I have never been violent with anybody, diba? Not even in words, no? Good evening. Welcome to our show, Nonsense Makes Sense. I'm Sister John Mananzan, your host.
Among Sister Mary John Mananzan's long list of accomplishments, she is a cable TV talk show host of the weekly show Nonsense Makes Sense. And here is where it all comes together.
Michi, this is our TV studio.
So this is where you shoot your nonsense.
Yeah, for Nonsense Makes Sense.
Yeah.
So, kami ang gumawa ng background niyan.
So, syempre, purple
kami
rin
ang
siya.
naglagay,
It's the color of the
syempre,
Institute.
diba?
So,
yan.
Sister, paano ba yan sa lahat? From production, post-production,
Lahat
it's all
kami
done
lahat.
here.
Oh, it's
and this
all
is the
done
mass
here.
communication department of
Yes,
Saints.
oo. And they gave us one day in a week, usually Wednesday. Now we can use the whole day for taping.
So, your personnel, of course,
Ito nga pala, si Direk dito. Si Lito ang director namin at siya yung
Lito,
nag-edit lahat-lahat. Manny is our main camera person.
So everything is done in-house, and then the
Yes,
students
oo.
also help,
Oo.
no? Growing up in Bayambang, Pangasinan, Sister Mary John's feminist spirit was sparked by her mother, a public high school teacher.
My mother was the president of the women's club in my town, and my memory of as child is nag-aano kami ng parang ukay-ukay kung bibigay namin sa mga poor, mga ganyan-ganyan. So my mother had that instinct already of being of help.
Helping, so you were exposed
and I call
to
her
that.
Mother of Perpetual Help kasi everybody asked her for advice or nangungutang kahit na mga rich na people, nangungutang pa sa kanya. Siya ang puntahan ng lahat ng mga tao for advice.
And in St. Scholastica, the same. You had a teacher when you were, I think, third year high school, no?
Yes.
Who really opened your mind to critical thinking.
Yeah, that one naman is really wonderful. Si Mrs. Connie Lopez, Reyes Lopez. She opened our minds to what is the meaning of truth. At hindi lang yun. Out of the school, she formed a study club, and you know what we were discussing? The persons of the Reformation, logic, epistemology, mga ganon. No?
Wow.
Under the acacia tree. So I got to learn already what logic is at that very young age.
Her only sister, Josie, says she'll always consider Mary John as her baby sister and is proud of all she's done.
She will always be my little sister. We had a little store in our house in Bayambang, Pangasinan. It's a very small town. And so my mother would tell us to watch once in a while during summer. And then once she saw that we had a lot of at that time the only cigarettes were Chesterfield, mga Camel, mga ganon. So she decided to taste all of them until nagka-groggy siya because she wanted to smoke everything. For me, she's very brave. And number two, she really stands for her principles. As a matter of fact, people would tell me before, komunista yung kapatid mo. And then I said, of course not. I would never encroach into her ideals. For example, when she has activist persons during the time of Marcos, she would actually bring them to our house. So when she does that, my husband and I, we just go into our bedroom. We just let them be.
And it was in your last year in college, that was kind of that you really decided you were going to enter the convent.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that I would try it, and maybe if I don't, I'm young enough to
What
go
made
out.
you decide? When did you realize this is it? This is what I want to do?
You do not do that until you are already far into the convent. That one, I am almost sure I want to try this life. Parang ganon. But am I very sure? Completely sure? Of course not. And then as you go along in your life, then you find more and more meaning to your life, and you find more and more reason why you'll stay.
When you were studying in Germany, you got to study under the
Car
great
runner.
master.
Ang maganda kasi sa kanya, he has a very deep spirituality, no? Pero when he talks about spirituality, napaka-concrete at saka napaka-deep, no? Kaya yun at saka he is really a human being.
Yeah.
Talagang taong-tao, yung sabi nga nila. Kagaya ni Pope Francis.
You talked a lot. You wrote letters to one another. What are some of the great things you really remember that he taught
Oh,
you?
yeah, what he wrote to me. Ang ganda, sabi niya sa akin, if I were Pope, I will ordain you priest. Oh. Anong say mo?
Wow!
At that time, that's about 1970 something.
Yeah.
No? Imagine, and I have that written. And then also, for example, when I said, you know, I'm going to be delegate in the general chapter. Ano mo sabi niya sa akin? Okay, you are grown up now. My advice to you when you go to the chapter is do not run after all rabbits, because God has equally distributed stupidity and wisdom in all groups. Hindi ba very concrete?
Very practical, yes.
Diba?
You wouldn't
A lot of
expect
things that I thought original sa akin. Yung pala, ay naku, sinabi pala ni Father Rana.
Pala yan, absorb
Even becoming a part of the revolutionary movement at that time. Because I told him, this is what is happening here in the Philippines, ganyan-ganyan. What am I going to do? I know about the guerrillas, ganyan-ganyan. Alam mo, sabi niya, sinulat niya to ha. Sabi niya, you know, there are instances in any country when there's so much injustice and there is no way to eradicate that injustice. It is not only the right, but the duty of its citizens if they have a chance of success.
Yes.
To revolt.
Yeah.
Sinabi niya sa akin yun. Okay. What I actually learned from him is, ito nga yung to be subjectively autonomous. That means to say that you have the inner freedom to think and to say and to write what you think is right, and it doesn't matter what other people are saying. Inner freedom for me is the greatest value that a person can have.
Yeah.
I was always surrounded by strong women. My mom is, of course, a strong personality. And of course, Tita Madre, TM as we call her, is the epitome of a strong woman. I'm a Scholastican, so we were always very socially aware. So it started in school, but she started on me early, the social awareness. But what I like about her is that she always gets you into spirited debates. She will never force her ideology down your throat, but she will challenge you and she will make you think.
Now, sister, you are so busy. You are 80 years old, but you are just not slowing down. You're about to launch a new book, no?
Yeah, it's called Non-Talk. Because we have nonsense, non-stop, non-talk. It will appear end of March.
Apart from these advocacies, what else are the other projects that you're still looking into?
Ang style ko, I don't look for anything. When a need comes, then I say, well, I can help in making this thing fulfilled, then I'll do it. Because I have the philosophy that if you run after something, it will run away from you. But the thing is that you have to recognize an opportunity when it's there before you. My last project was putting up a hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we put it up in Pambuhan, Northern Samar, which is one of the poorest provinces in the Philippines. But do you know that, well, just to make the story short, because it's quite long, we got the land for free, somebody gave it to us. We got the construction for free. You know, putting up a hospital is no joke. But undertaking this project taught me two things. One is, miracles can happen. Not to saints, but to ordinary people like us. Number two, that it pays to dream, and to dream big. Because if your dream is for people, and it is worthwhile fulfilling, all the forces of the universe will align themselves to make your dream come true.
What is your profile?
I'm really an advocate for the empowerment of women. That is what I would like to be remembered for.
Well, thank you very much for all you've done, all you do, and for inspiring us. Thank you, Sister Mananzan. Name top 3 activities for de-stressing.
For distressing, meditation, shibashi, computer games
Like
like Candy Crush Saga and Fishdom.